welcome back to Mr. Obsolete's Vintage Homesteading. Today we're going to be talking about the science of splitting wood. It's like anything, there's science behind everything. There's two ways to do it. You can just grab an axe and mindlessly split it, waste a lot of time and energy. Or you can think about what you're doing and use the least amount of energy to get the most work done. So here's some of the things that we'll do. We're going to be using a wedge. And that, as the deeper it goes, it splits the wood apart, snaps it apart. And you can see that this thing has got chips and rounded off. This thing is probably close to 100 years old, made out of really good steel, but when you're using it, you definitely want to wear your safety glasses so you don't get a chip in your eye or something. And on the wood, almost every hunk of wood has a crack in it, and this one you won't be able to see, but I'll highlight it here. And so that has 3 splits in it. And on this side it's got a knot. And the knot is pretty much in direction of the split here. So what you want to do is find the wood with the clearest, no knots and stuff, and we'll use the wedge. When we're ready to do it, we'll put the wedge in here and just a little bit in from the end. Let me get my eyes on here. Mostly I use a wedge on bigger wood. This is just for showing you how to do it. I'm using a 9.5 pound sledge here. So we'll get this started. Turn it so that we get it the easiest. When you're lifting a heavy wedge in a sledge like this, when you lift it up, lift it by the top, and then as you're getting ready to swing down, move your hand down and stuff. So let it split. There again, we want to find the wood that has the least amount of knots and stuff so we can use the lightest axe. We can use this, which is a regular splitting axe, but I find in this type of wood it's really sticky and it's easier to do it with a double bit. It takes less energy. When we have a knot like here, I'll use the splitting maul. And what that does is you'll split around this, but you need the maul for the extra weight to split it. You can see it splits right around it real nice. And since the rest of the wood is pretty clear, we'll use the light and easy to swing double bit. It's got a nice sharp edge, just like that. So there you have it, the science of splitting firewood. Well, we're going to talk a little more about the science of the wedge and how it pertains to firewood processing. You can see it's just basically a tapered piece of plastic or metal, thin at the end, wider at the top. And for wood processing, you know, this will go down in and push the wood apart. This splitting wedge is a lot more technical than this one. This has straight edges. This one has a nice sharp thin point, and then it spreads out and gets wider quicker here to snap the wood apart. And so we'll talk about the different aspects of the uses of wedges. And an axe handle like this, once the head's put on, use a wooden wedge to go down here, spread this apart. And once that's seated on, use another little thin metal wedge like this to go in and finish the. And that one has little wedges on the side there that holds it in place, so that makes it firmly stay on there and works really great. So simple science can do a lot of work. Okay, this piece of wood here, there's a knot here and a knot here. So I've highlighted the crack in it. You can see it's got a slight curvature, and then I put some marks to show. I put a mark here where we want to put the wedge in to split this, and by splitting it this way, it should snap off right up to the side of the knot there. So get my eyes on here. So we'll put it right where that mark is, just in from the edge. The other thing we're talking about is kinetic energy. That's what's driving this apart. So you basically have a lever in your arm to extend it. You have the weight out here. And when you hit this, all that energy is imparted in here. And by using a heavy wedge like this one, it weighs 5 pounds, and 9.5 pounds on this, when that hits, that drives that wedge down in there. Handle here out of the way. Root rot as usual. You can see it split right on that crack in the center here. Follows it. So we'll split this up real quick. Again, this is a splitting axe and it has a thin front piece just like the wedge does, and it goes out, and once it penetrates, it wedges the wood apart. And if you look at the grain structure here, you can zoom in on that. See that the grain structure is pretty much straight up and down. And that's why a wedge is so effective on wood. So we have the knot right here, so we'll want to hit right to the side of it, just like that. And the other one's right here, so we want to hit right there. Look closely, you can see the bulge of the knot here and how it just sliced right next to it. On both sides you can see the bulge right there too. And that way you have a nice piece of firewood left. Now that one bounced off. This wood is really springy. So my preferred axe is my double bit because of the super thin wedge on it. But the same amount of energy, this cuts in so much deeper before it splits the wood, and it saves you a lot of energy. You do a lot less work with it on your body, but still split the wood really quickly and easily. You see that just slices through there like a hot knife through butter. and I don't have to put a tremendous amount of energy in it. The other axe requires more energy to do the same work. We'll be back in a second with some more info. Okay, here we have a difficult piece of wood to split. I'll highlight the crack in it. It has several. See that? Now this has, I'm going to highlight on the sides of it also. This has a lot of knots in it. 1, 2, 4 big ones. So if you look to see where the crack goes here, it kind of goes in between these knots, and that's where you want to start splitting. And it should come over just split right on the side down here. Get this set here and give it a whack or two. So line it up with the crack here. Get it set in like that and get where we can get a good swing on it here. Try to keep it from rocking too much. There again, it split right at the knot, just like we wanted. You can see it followed the crack, and it's starting to split here where the crack is moving that direction. So that goes on just the opposite side. The knot here. And wood like this is where the double bit doesn't cut, it just doesn't have enough weight, kinetic energy. That's why you use a splitting maul like this. This will be a little more difficult because of the two of them are really close, so we'll try hitting it right here and see if it splits or not. Perfect. So there again, using the right tool for what you're doing is really important. So now we'll talk about the wedge a little more. If you're out cutting trees, I believe this is a tree here, but if it's leaning back a little bit just like this is, once you do your face cut on the tree and start your back cut, when you start cutting in, you'll start hammering in a wedge. Basically what you're doing is tipping the tree over. So just a small distance here, I mean 6 to 8 inches at the top of the tree if it's like 70, 80 foot up. So you just keep moving that in and the tree falls over. The other way you're using a wedge is if the tree is on the ground, it's sitting up on something and the center is above the ground, so if you're cutting it, it'll want to fall in. So you do your initial cut with a chainsaw, and then when you get down far enough, you start wedging this, and that will wedge it apart like that. You can cut all the way through without pinching the bar and the chain. So there's the science of the wedge. Such a simple tool. It's like an axe, or any of these are all wedges. This is a wedge too. Picaroon here. It's narrow this way, but you can see it's got a nice taper here. And what you're doing when you pick up a piece of wood, you're wedging this into it like that, and you can pick it up. You don't have to bend over. This wood's a little sticky, so you have to wiggle it out. Anyway, we'll get some of these in here. Get a few more. Doesn't take much energy. Get a couple of smaller ones in here. Really is nice for processing wood because you can do it pretty quickly and not using a lot of energy. There again, why work yourself to death when you don't have to? It's more fun this way anyway. And now we've got these in here. Just split them real quick. It's got some knots in it. Turn it so the knot's a little bit off. There we go. It's got lots of knots in it. Might need a little heavier piece to get that, but that one quick whack and split. There again, for a bigger piece like this, I need something with a little more energy in it, a little heavier, but this is doing the job. Now, just a few short strikes there. We got a whole bunch of nice firewood sized pieces. Use the right tool for each type of job you're doing on the wood, and vintage is always best. See you in the next video.